Hi, my name is Jay Gainor, and I've been in contact with Beth Malott about possibly doing some coursework with homeschoolers in the Harrisburg Area Association, Homeschoolers Association. So I'm going to give you a little preview of some courses that I could teach and possibly have your students, sit in on these courses. I think it's something that is valuable in a life learning process, and it'd be a great opportunity for me to work with young Christian kids. My wife and I are Christians. We attend Carlisle Free Church, and I've been in education I was in education for 33 years, and enjoyed that. I finished up my career in teaching in a woodshop at a local high school. And I've pretty much throughout my whole career, I've worked with home improvement. So I know a lot about different things that take place around the house that could go wrong. Or I've done additions, I've done decks, I've done windows, roofing and siding, patio covers, awnings, retractable awnings, pretty much anything that has been needed on a house I've done. I've gutted homes and rewired them and drywalled them, and so I've done a lot of work around the house. So I have a lot of expertise I'd like to share with some students that would be interested in learning about it. So I'm going to go over some courses with you. The first one I'd like to present to you is called Introduction to Woodworking. And I'm sitting here right now in my shop at my home. And in my shop, it's not a big shop. I'd prefer a larger one. When I redid my basement, my wife said, here, you can have this space, and that's what I got stuck with. So it's not a big shop. It looks a little cramped, and that's because it is. But it allows me to have all the tools that I need to do a lot of different things. So I'd like to share with you some of those things that we can do and start out with a course called Introduction to Woodworking. Okay? And I have on my whiteboard here some things that you would learn through this Introduction to Woodworking class. All right? Woodshop safety. Safety is a big deal when you're working in the shop. You have power tools, and even hand tools can be dangerous. Okay? They're sharp. You can cut yourself. You can watch for splinters. Okay? So we'll spend a lot of time on woodshop safety. And the Introduction to Woodworking class is probably more oriented toward middle school, junior high school kids. I don't like to get into, for a 6th and 7th grader, I don't like to get into a lot of power tools, maybe limited power tools. If there's any high-level cutting that would need to be done, I do that myself and show the students how it's done. But some of the tools can be dangerous if you don't know how to use them properly, and the skill level of some of that age group is not always what you'd like it to be. So I'd be very careful with that. I do stress woodshop safety, okay? I don't want anybody getting injured, all right? And before anybody uses any power tool, they have to pass a written test, and they have to pass a skill test, actually using the power tool, and pass a skill test for that, okay? I mean, I don't just bring kids in here and just let them go ahead and, do whatever they want with tools, all right? All right, next, spend some time on identify and select wood. There are various kinds of wood. What's the difference between a hardwood and a softwood? Okay, I would like the students to learn that. It's not something that's terribly difficult to learn, but they need to be aware of what kind of wood they're working with. And then when you get into hardwoods, is it walnut? Is it oak? Is it cherry? Is it poplar? And those are the 4 basic kinds of hardwoods we'll work with, okay? But how to identify them, and what ways do you use them? And some hardwoods are better for projects than other hardwoods, okay? How do we define what is better and what is not better, okay? All right, so identifying and selecting the wood is an area that we'll learn. Learn about woodshop tools, hand and power tools, and I briefly alluded to that before. We'll cover a whole array of hand tools. There's a lot of hand tools, and probably some of the projects that we'll start out with will strictly use hand tools, okay? Now, when you get into higher level woodshop working today, hand tools are very seldom used because there's so many power tools that can do the work a lot faster, so and even more efficient too. So power tools are the key, but we want to start out learning how to use hand tools. And then we'll get into some power tools. Not a lot, as I mentioned before, at this level. All right, then we spend a lot of time on measurement, layout, and planning. Okay? Measurement, very important. And some students, no problem. Other students, when you get down to an 1/8 or a 1/16 of an inch, maybe at this level, you don't have to go to a 32nd, but you got to be able to read a tape measure and know exactly what measurement you're going to need. Okay? So, and I always say my rule is measure twice, cut once. Don't cut once or don't measure once and then have to cut it another time because you made a mistake. Measure twice, cut once. So you make sure your measurement is right on, okay? And then we're gonna lay out the project and plan it. We're gonna draw it on paper. Every project gets drawn on paper. I want the kids to have a visualization of what they're going to be making, okay? Now, you don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be an architect, okay? But I just want them to have a general idea on paper with the measurements listed. And there'll be a project sheet that they'll get. And they have to list all the steps that they have to go through to make their project, okay? Planning. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, okay? So students need to learn how to plan a project. If I was going to build a shed in my backyard, I just wouldn't go out and get a bunch of wood, start pounding wood together and saying, hey, I hope this turns out all right. You know, so you want to plan it out, and there's certain ways, certain procedures and steps to take. So your end product is going to be what you visualize it to be, okay? So measurement, layout, and planning, very important. And project introduction. There'll be various projects for the students to work on. And the nice thing about this class, they can work on a project, they can finish it, they can take it home with them. They have something, they started out with nothing, and they can end up with something that they can see, and hey, I did this, you know. And that's sort of rewarding for the student. So we'll spend some time on project introduction, and they'll get to pick out, look at different kinds of projects, and decide on one that they want to pick out. Now, at this level, at the intro to woodworking level, we're not really going to get into a complicated project. We might make a toolbox. We might make a birdhouse. We might make a cutting board that's fairly simple to make, okay? It will require certain steps, learning steps that they've gone through, but it's not going to be a highly complicated project. And then you complete the project. Once you have all the planning done, measurements established, then we select our project, and then we work on the completion of the project, okay? I anticipate this could be, if we do a class twice a week, we're probably going to have 5 or 6 or 7 weeks of class time, okay? It's a fun class, it's a learning class, and they'll learn lifelong things to do, okay? Maybe someday they'll have a wood shop in their house, and you know. And this class is for the guys and the gals. It doesn't have to be just for guys, okay? In my teaching days, I had many young ladies that became pretty good woodworkers, okay? Very handy, all right? What I'd like to do now, I'm just going to give you a little tour of my shop. I'm just going to turn my screen around so you can see what it looks like. Okay, now this is a sort of a countertop, a wood bench, if you will, and I have a lot of nuts and bolts and small connecting items there. If you go a little bit further down, you're going to see a scroll saw, and students will get an opportunity to use that scroll saw. That's one of the intro to woodworking power tools they can use. And further on down, it's my paint corner. I have a sink down there, and a lot of items to do with painting and staining. And there's certain ways to paint and certain ways to stain, and we'll go over some of those. Okay? We go a little bit further around, over in the distance there, you can see a lathe. We probably will have an introduction to using a lathe, okay? And I will make that dependent on the skill level of the students that I have. Then you see a bandsaw, okay? You see a planer, DeWalt yellow planer there. And then you see a router table, and you see a joiner machine, and that's for making smooth edges. You go drill press, and outside that door, I have a patio out there. When on warm days, we can do some work outside. Then I have a radial arm saw, I have a miter saw, and I have an orbital sander and a belt sander over there. And around the corner, I have clamps and all kind of connecting hand tools and tools to, if I'm putting multiple pieces of wood. Okay, my screen blacked out there. I'm not sure where it blacked out. Okay, but I tried to give you a tour of my shop. I'm just going to real quickly go over that again without, I'll keep a better, closer eye on my screen. Okay, my scroll saw, my paint area over there in the corner. And I have a lathe, a bandsaw, my DeWalt planer, my router table. I have a joiner machine. I have a drill press, radial arm saw, miter saw, orbital sander, and over the back around the corner, I have clamps and small hand tools, small connecting items, nuts, bolts, screws, which is back around the corner. Okay, so I can accommodate probably 4, maybe 5 students, and you can see I have a small shop, so that's going to put a limit on the number of students I can handle at one time. But it's an exciting, I think it would be an exciting class, a good introduction to woodworking, and students could learn some skills and maybe find out some skills that they have that they never knew they had. Okay, so, and maybe even be helpful around the house with mom and dad. Okay, so Beth Malott will be in touch, and we're going to plan on maybe a mid to late spring introduction course, and maybe next fall have a course go full swing, full blast, and I look forward to it. I hope I can share some of my skills and some of my knowledge with your young ones, and something they can take with them for the rest of their life. All right? It was my pleasure, and take care, and Beth will be in touch.